Okay, today we're going to review division with partial quotients. And two of the ways that we've learned to show partial quotients are with an area model and also showing partial quotients on a big 7. So, which is basically the expanded algorithm for division. So let's get started. The first problem we're going to do is 96 divided by 3. You can see I've written it two ways, where we write it horizontally, and then we also write it with the division bracket, 96 divided by 3. So first, let's start with the area model. If you'd like, go ahead and pause the video and try to do the area model and the big 7 on your own. And then you can play when you're done and check your work. Okay, to get started, I simply draw a rectangular box and I put the divisor out and I place the divisor to the side of the box. And what we're doing is we want the area of this rectangle to be 96. So we're trying to make the inside of the rectangle add up to 96. The easiest way to do this is to think about tens, hundreds, and thousands. Those are nice, easy groups of numbers to count, and they help us break down multiplication problems easier too. So, I'm first thinking of what times 3 could get me close to 96. My first thought was 10 times 3, but that only gets me to 30. So, I think 20 times 3. I know 20 times 3 is 60. That gets me closer. What about 3 times 30? That's 90. That is pretty close to my dividend. So I'm going to try that first. So I'm going to place a 30 here. And I know that this section is 3 times 30, which is 90. That's the area of this part of my rectangle. I can show that over here by doing a big 7. I did 3 times 30, which is 90, and I just subtract it from my dividend, which is 6, and now I know I have 6 left in my dividend. So now I'm trying to think, 3 times what would get me 6? Well, I know in my fast facts that 3 times 2 will get me 6, so the area of this part is 6. Now I will come over to my big 7. I did 3 times 2 equals 6, so I just need to subtract that 6 from the dividend. And now I'm at 0, which means that I have completely filled up my dividend. I now know by looking at the top of my rectangle on my area model that I have 30 and 2. When I add those together, I get 32. So the answer, the quotient, is 32. I can also see over here on the side of my big 7 model 30 and 2, which equals 32. So I can see that I have found the quotient using either model. Okay, now we're going to try another number. This problem is 128 divided by 4, and you can see that I've written it in two different ways. So let's get started with drawing our area model and placing the divisor on the left. Feel free to stop the recording if you'd like to try this on your own first and then check your work. Okay, so when I am doing partial quotients, I am thinking of multiples of 10, 100, or 1,000 that will get me close to my dividend, 128. First, I want to think about 4 times 100. I know that 4 times 100 is 400, which is too much. That would go over 128. So I know that I need to think about multiples of 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. First, I'll think about 10 times 4. I know that's 40, and that's not close to my dividend. So I'm going to try to think of a higher number so I can get closer. 50 times 4, that would get me 200. That's too much. So I'll try 20 times 4. That would get me 80. That's closer. 30 times 4. Oh, that's 120. That gets me very close. I'm going to try 30. If I wanted to, I could have broken this 30 down into 10 times 4, 10 times 4, 10 times 4. That's fine. It just creates more steps. It does get me to the same quotient. Okay, so 30 times 4 is 120. I can show that over here with my Big 7 model by showing that I did 30 times 4 is 120. I just need to subtract that from the dividend to see how many I have left. In this case, I have 8 left. So I'm thinking 4 times what number will get me close to 8? Well, I know from my facts that 4 times 2 equals 8. So that gets me there straight away. So I did 4 times 2, and I just need to subtract that 8. Now that I'm at 0, I know that I've reached my quotient. And as you can see here, it is 32. Okay, now we are going to try 695 divided by 5. Remember, you can pause the recording to try it on your own first. I will start by drawing my area model and placing my divisor on the left-hand side. First, I'm thinking about what can get me closest to 695. Well, I know that 5 times 100 is 500. That's pretty close. What about 5 times 200? That's 1,000. That's too much. So I'm going to start with 5 times 100. We know that that's 500. I'm going to show that over here on my Big 7 model. I did 5 times 100, which is 500, and then I just subtract that from my dividend. That leaves me with 195 remaining. So I'm thinking 5 times what will get me close to 195? I know that 5 times 100 is too much, so I'm going to start thinking about multiples of 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. I know that 5 times 10 is 50. That's not quite close enough, so I'm going to try 5 times 20, which is 100. I'm getting closer. 5 times 30 I know is 150. It's much closer. 5 times 40 is 200. That's going to be too much. I'm just trying to get to 195. So I think I'm going to go with 5 times 30, which we decided was 150. I can write that over here. I did 5 times 30 was 150, and I just subtract that from my quotient to see where I'm at. I have 45 left. So I'm thinking 5 times what can get me close to 45? Well, I know from my facts that 9 times 5 gets me exactly to 45. So 9 times 5 is 45. I'll show that over here. 9 times 5 is 45. I subtract that from my dividend, and that gets me to 0. That means I'm finished. So I just add up my partial quotients here or here to get my answer. 100 plus 30 plus 9 equals 139. So that is my quotient. Okay, let's try one more problem. Again, feel free to pause the recording if you'd like to try it on your own first. Let's start by drawing our area model with the divisor on the left. I'm trying to get to the dividend of 4,648. Okay, so let's give it a try. I'm thinking of 2 times 1,000. This is a big number, so that's why I started with 1,000. I know that that's 2,000. I think I could get closer than that. What about 2 times 2,000? Well, that would be 4,000. That would get me pretty close, so I'm going to try that. 2,000. And I know that 2,000 times 2 is 4,000. Great. So over here what I did was 2 times 2,000 and that was 4,000. And I'm just going to subtract that from my dividend to see how much I have left to divide. 8, 4, 6. I have 648 left. So now I'm thinking 2 times what will get me closest to 648. I know that 1,000 would be too much, so I'm going to go down to 100 and think of my multiples of 100. 100, 200, 300, 400, and so on. I know that 100 times 2 is 200. That's close, but not close enough. I know that 200 times 2 is 400. I'm getting closer. Let's try 2 times 300. That's 600. That's pretty close. I'm going to go with that. So 2 times 300 is 600. Let's show that over here. I did 2 times 300, which got me 600. And I just subtract that from my dividend. 8, 4. That leaves with only 48 to go. So now I'm thinking 2 times what could get me close to 48? Well, I don't know a fast fact that gets me to 48. So I'm going to think in multiples of 10. 2 times 10 is 20. 2 times 20 is 40. That's pretty close. I'm going to try that. 2 times 20 is 40. So 2 times 20 was 40. And I just need to subtract that from my dividend. That leaves me with 8. Well, now I'm thinking 2 times what will get me to 8? And I know that fact. That's 2 times 4 equals 8. So all I did over here on the big 7 is I did 2 times 4 equals 8. And when I subtract that, it gets me to 0. So now I can just add up my partial quotients to see what my answer is, here or here. It's a little bit easier for me to see on the big 7 model for this problem. It looks like it's going to be 2,000 plus 300 plus 20 plus 4, which will get me 2,324. That is my quotient. Okay, great work today. Try some problems on your own and see how you do. Good luck.